All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Simply Trade News Roundup, or just Roundup, because, there's so many news out there that we can't really talk all about them, but we have lots to say right now. And this is going to be a great show, so stick around. This is your go-to show for real trade talk about global trade with our leading industry voices. And I just want to discuss kind of things that happened this week. One of the biggest things was that we have a US and Indonesia trade agreement, which the US will reduce its tariff on Indonesian goods from 32% to 19%, but will maintain a higher tariff than before recent trade tensions. So that's a deal that we're looking forward to right now. There is also a lot. There's a lot on edge right now, and we don't really know what's going to happen and what will totally be put in place because there's a lot going on behind the scenes. But coming August 1st, we will definitely know how these tariff letters are they really coming true, or will they just remain letters and all talk? So we'll see about that, and we'll definitely update you on this. We'll have a great show planned. That way we can discuss how trade is moving forward. But let's get to the good stuff. So by the title, you should see that we have a trade therapist on today. And I use this term really loosely, but our guest today is Benita Lee. Benita has over 25 years of global trade, supply chain, and compliance experience. She's led trade compliance programs for major companies, navigated complex regulations, and is a respected mentor in the industry, might I say, therapist. And she is really known for being an innovative thinker, problem solving. I always see her at conferences, communicating, understanding people, trying to help people, seeing how we can connect differently, how we can make a difference, how can she make your job easier. And I truly appreciate that. And I don't know why I haven't had her on any sooner, but here she is, our trade therapist today. I love that term. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Benita. I'm so happy you're here.
I'm so excited, Annik, and thank you so much for your kind words. When you hear someone talk about how they perceive you, you're just like, oh, wow, thank you.
I truly believe that, because you know what, at conferences, you're so upright, right? You come up to me and you're like, Annie, we need to get together. Let's take a picture. Let's do this. We need to connect. What is going on? And I think, and I could not imagine you being any different with any other people. And you're truly like someone that ties the industry together. I mean, even off camera talks right now, we had so many discussions on how we can grow the community, how we can just make people feel seen and feel understood, and being able to solve the problems that they're currently facing. So I want to start with the industry right now is going a little wild bananas. We don't really know what's happening. I feel like everyone is on a back burner. But how is it for you? Like, what do you see and what do you feel at the moment?
Well, as a therapist, when I get people in my chair or on lounging on my sofa, they're always talking about the stress. And I'm like, don't be stressed. Don't be stressed. Stop watching the news. Keep updated, but don't act or react on headlines or tweets or whatever. Do what you fundamentally need to do inside your company. Go back to the basics. Do you have an HS matrix? Do you have an FDA program? Do you have a supportive and knowledgeable customs broker? Do you have a freight matrix? And, do all the basics that you need to do without worrying about what's going on, like what the noise is in the background. Because there's tons of people that are going to be able to tell you what the latest is. But it seems like we're not talking about what the basics are, like the framework that you need.
Yeah, you know what? And that is so interesting that you say that, because I mean, we've seen these letters come out. I had an episode just last week with Eric Smith Wise on these letters, and like now when I'm taking the news, and that's why I appreciate talking to you, because when we see all these news, what do you see behind the scenes? Like, how do people react to you? What do they say? Do they say, how can we strategize to be different? Do we not do anything at all? Do we wait it out until August 1st? Do we put a plan in place to make sure that we're not going to get hit with these tariffs? Or this is one thing that, you know, the ports are being overloaded because everyone wants to get their stuff out. So what is it? Like, what are people trying to do at the moment?
They're trying, the front loading is a thing. Like I heard that the Port of Montreal, while I was in Kelowna, I heard that the Port of Montreal was like completely dysfunctional because there were all these Chinese goods coming into Montreal. This is in Canada. I'm not going to talk about the US. And I'm just thinking, okay, that's great, but do you have like a foreign trade zone bonded warehouse? Do you have something somewhere to put your goods so that it's not sitting in inventory or at the port collecting like demurrage or like, you know, fees? Now you're just causing yourself more expenses so that you can front load your goods without the tariff. But wouldn't a better strategy be to strategize your preemptive moves, which are, you know, the things that we all know about: HS codes, valuation, connecting with your finance department, risk department, legal department, and maintaining a business continuity, right? Like in every crisis, like, we can go back years, but we'll just take the pandemic, for example. Like, it's kind of the same things were happening during the pandemic in global trade. So why don't we use those tools that we learned from the pandemic and build a continuity plan? Like, I've heard of tariff war rooms happening, right? That's not good. Tariff war rooms is like they've got charts and graphs of like what Trump said, what letter came out, what
Oh my God.
Liberation Day, and what, you know what I mean? Like, most of that stuff doesn't impact every single organization, right?
Yeah.
Like, like the Vietnam thing, that's going to impact you if you're like a Dell and you're sending your laptops to Vietnam to get assembled, and then you're bringing it back to Canada to put the cybersecurity and all the other stuff on, and then you're sending it into the US. Now it affects you, right? But like, sit down and look at your trade lanes and look at your flows, and do some supply chain mapping. Don't just have a war room where you're monitoring every single headline that comes out. That's being reactive. We want to be proactive, right?
How do you see the difference between, so I'm a huge small business girl. I love supporting small businesses always. It's funny because I'm wearing, I'm currently in El Paso, Texas, right? And I'm wearing an El Paso hat currently at the moment. And I love to support small businesses when I can. And I think we've heard so much about small businesses being hit the hardest. Well, because they don't have as many funds, right? So if if they're importing from China, like they can't afford their they can't afford their tariffs. Rather, the big company might have a little bit more assets that they could afford it or pass it on to the consumer. In small businesses, it's hard to pass something like that onto the consumer because people might get it cheaper from a big business. So what do you see in that kind of sense? Do you hear a little bit of stuff of small businesses failing or not being able to continue or struggling with these kind of, industry changes?
Well, not just small businesses. And I'm going to wear my hat too, because it's a small business as well. This is,
I love that. I love it. Compliance. Yes. What does it say?
It says, because you won't
make it in prison. Oh my God. I love that. Yeah. And you know what? That's why you need to get trained, people. I'm sorry.
Exactly. No, this is from a compliance store. She's on LinkedIn. I'll hook you up to her so you can check out her merch.
Please.
She's a small business in the US. For the Canadian small businesses that I'm seeing, oh man, like, yeah, you're right. They don't even have supply chains. Like they're doing it all themselves. And when I see someone in that situation, like depending on where they are, and I provide, like I don't really market this anymore, but I provide ad hoc pro bono services for small businesses, right? That, honestly, they just have like a few goods. They're like just a pop-up store. Depending on what good they're selling or what inputs they're bringing in, they have a hard time. And, with the tariffs, it's like, and in this in-between phase where, the Congress is deciding whether the IEPA is, enough, justified. They have to pay their tariffs, and the brokers that they have are also smaller and are helping them to do that. But things have become so overpriced, and that system of like getting cheap things from the Asias, bringing it into Canada, selling it at your little tiny small store, that it doesn't work anymore, right? And so there's so many of them, and I have a small business Saturday post that I'd really like you to like maybe we can do that together, like do a collabo. And sometimes they can be they're from all different places, these small businesses that I highlight on the Saturdays. So maybe we can get together. Yeah. Like bring highlights to businesses that can't afford advertising, that can't afford supply chain, can't afford trade compliance people.
Yeah. Yeah, it is tough. And you know what? So there's so much uncertainty at the moment, right? Uncertainty is good in life, to be honest. I think there needs to be some kind of uncertainty. If you always have certainty, I don't think your life can be as special. But in this industry, are there any key habits or processes you rely on to manage uncertainty?
Well, you're totally right. I say that to myself when I'm playing golf. I'm like, imagine if I was a scratch golfer and I knew every single time what I was going to get.
That'd be boring.
So uncertainty, yeah, that's what brings everything to life. And I think that, like for myself, what I've been doing is like I meditate, and then you'll see my like Wednesday wellness posts. Those are about meditating and like just staying calm. And they're actually called the daily calm. And so I've started sharing those. There's two things that I can hold my own when talking about topics, and that is trade compliance and social media. And so, in this time of absolute chaos, we need to slow down and take a moment. And that's what I'm using Wellness Wednesday posts for.
When you talk about trade compliance, how do you think trade compliance, like people really understanding trade compliance in this current situation, how do you think that affects the current changes in industry? Because we see a lot of businesses are struggling, and we've talked about that. But having a certain trade compliance person within your business, how does that change the framework?
Well, I think you've probably heard this a lot. We've come upon a time where trade compliance, is at the table now. Like CEOs are asking for they're either their CFO or their COO or their CIO sometimes to ask, the trade compliance people, like, we need an update, like bring that person into the room. So, let's not waste this opportunity at this moment. Let's get our communication skills down and be able to bring what we're seeing at the borders to the boardroom, right?
I like that you said that. And then I want to touch on something. So we've been talking about, well, me behind the scenes have been talking about cross-functional training, right? So there's one person that understands compliance within a company, and they need that person 100%. That person knows everything you need to know about trade compliance, right? Because that's how you avoid fees. That's how you don't spend millions of dollars. But nevertheless, all people kind of need to be trained right now. Like, the industry has changed so much that everyone should have a big picture of what trade compliance is. Like, okay, we are selling products to this country, or we are buying products from this country. How does that even work? What is importing? What are the procedures? What can't we do just to make like the whole picture of it work together, rather than one person? Like, it all falls onto one team, 3 people that need to talk to all of them and make them understand what trade compliance even is and how crazy it can get and how risky it is. So we've just been talking about cross-functional training, and I don't think it's talked about enough.
Yeah, I think how I got my cross-functional training was, I spent a lot of my career in supply chain. So purchasing, contracts, logistics, and then trade. Materials management, that comes into it too, right? If you are a person that enters SKUs and codes and descriptions into the system, then maybe you should be trained on HS classifications as well, right? And then with procurement, you're in procurement and you do all sorts of contracts, and you keep the contracts, you speak with the contract specialist, but do you know how to procure broker services or freight services or surety bond? Insurance, right? That's where cross-training can happen organically with the trade compliance people and the procurement people or contract specialists. And then IT. For a lot of my career, I spent building a GTS inside of SAP and talking to IT about what's coming down the regulatory pipeline, and then speaking to finance about what internal controls we can place inside the system. So there's all sorts of cross-functional training that happens while you're on the job. It just takes like reaching out to those teams, telling them how it impacts them, telling them how it impacts the system as a whole, like using not just our critical thinking, but our systems thinking, right? Because supply chains and trade compliance are not silos. It takes the entire company with people in different disciplines to put the whole thing together. When I enter a company, I always start with that trade compliance framework that I shared with you.
Yes, and please enlighten us what it is and how it works and how it's been successful. You think? Yes, if you want to share that with us.
Okay, it's basically like a diagnostic tool. It's very primitive because I'm not a great graphic designer, or I'm not one of those like whizzes at AI that can generate images. It's very primitive. It's just a Word document that I've turned into a PDF. I send that as soon as I enter a company and I'm doing a needs assessment. That's what goes to them. They read this document. It starts with like, do you have executive level support? Do you have a trade compliance manual in place in case of an audit? Do you have an HS matrix? Do you have a NAFTA program? And who confirms the eligibility? Is it the chemists, the engineers, whoever holds the IP, the product stewardship teams? And then they have to pass this document throughout the organization because not one person handles all that, right? And in doing so, they realize, oh, shoot, like if we're to follow this framework, this needs assessment that Benita has given us, we have to hire people and we need to get people trained on these topics because not one person can do these things like you were saying, right?
I think this is so cool and genius. I like when you're speaking about it, I'm like, that is so true because there's a lot of question. People ask a lot of question within a business now that the tariffs are changing. We're asking, what are we supposed to do? How do we do this? But like really starting with the simplistic question or like,
Yeah,
what do you
who
even have?
does what?
Yes. What do
Who
you
does
even
what?
have? Yes. I love this. And you know what? We're gonna add this down below in the show notes so people
Oh,
can
awesome.
so people can get back to it and maybe use it for their companies. And if you need training, you reach out to Global Training Center. If you need
Exactly.
assistance, you need to reach out to Benita. If you need anything else, if you need a customs broker, if you need a consultant, we can connect you with so many people. And I think that's why Simply Trade is so great. And I love that you.
And here's like a success story. Like, there was one company where I sent it to them and they sent it around everywhere. It ended up in legal, tax, and the CEO.
Oh my God, that's great. I mean, that is so cool.
And I think that's what the success of the document is. It brings people together because you have to give it to someone else because you might not handle that piece or you might not know that piece. And then people see how those pieces fit together. Oh, tax used to own this, but maybe they should have trade compliance in that room when they're talking about valuation or, duty recovery, tax recovery, right?
That is, it's true, and I love that, and I kind of want to end on that note because we're tying it all together in community. We're getting together within our companies, and then I want to note that it is not just important to get together within your company, also reaching out and looking what others are doing because it can seem pretty frustrating within, but if you're looking out and seeing for and reaching to other people, there's a lot of opportunities I think in the industry at the moment. Benita is one person that does that specifically, kind of creating this kind of sense of community. Just yesterday, we were at the Global Trade Cafe. I think I was in there for a few minutes before I had to launch off to a meeting, but that is also another way to connect, to ask questions, and then how would people know about this framework? I mean, they see your LinkedIn, but if they don't have your LinkedIn, they could have gotten it from there. So
I've been giving it out as a freebie at the Global Trade Cafe. And like some people would say, like, that's your IP. But I would say, like, yes, like I consolidated it through my career, but it's not something people don't know about. They just maybe never put it together like that.
Yeah, it is. I do think it is a very special document, and it is.
And I loved, well, no, I don't mean to like harp on that. I just like, I mean to say like, as a community, we can come together at Global Trade Cafe. It's every month. We started in February, and through this Global Trade Cafe, yesterday when I saw you, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to go talk to Annik. Lalo was in my room when I did that, and he could see I was like totally fangirling over Annik.
I was like,
but I couldn't,
her on the
I couldn't get
podcast.
over. I couldn't click on the seat next to you because there were people that were asking me questions and talking to me, so I didn't want to be rude.
Yeah, well, here you are. Here we are.
And I mean, I would love it if Simply Trade and Global Trade Cafe did a collabo as well. And I think everybody would benefit from that, the entire community. And, you know, I would think of the supply chain being the operational element that drives the compliance. Like, trade compliance really is a strategy and a higher level thinking.
Yeah.
Without the supply chain, nothing moves.
Yep, I love that. That's great. And how do you think? So, like, what kind of tools, resources, or daily routines, keep you grounded in this area right now? I just want to end on like a kind of a therapist-y note. What is something that you tell people when they're super stressed and they're, or like business owners at the moment when they can't, maybe I can't continue my business. What do I do?
People aren't going to listen to you if you're a trade compliance professional that runs around the halls screaming, the sky is falling, right? Those are the trade compliance people that give us the bad reputation, I think, of being like the stoppage in making things happen. So don't be that Chicken Little. Be the calm and collected trade compliance person. And then to the small businesses, get in touch with people like Annik, myself. There's so many. Lila, Michelle. Oh, there's so many that are willing to help small businesses, and maybe at a lower cost than you would find in a multinational company. So don't be afraid to ask. And don't be afraid to ask if that person that knows somebody, because I know like tons of brokerages, tons of surety bond providers, tons of freight forwarders, and so do you, right? All we got to do is ask. And I think that the Global Trade Cafe is a good place to ask. It's a safe place to ask, hey, if I need this, where can I go? And you're going to get like a million suggestions. Act like a procurement person. Pick 3, or RFP, research 3 of them, and then pick 1.
Yeah. Well, Benita, this conversation has been so great, and I'm so thankful that you came on and gave your expertise and trade therapist. I think that's the perfect role for you because you gave exactly that, and I hope this episode gave some people more hope, gave some people calmness, and moving forward, because these next few episodes will a little bit be more hectic because we don't know what's happening coming August 1st, and it's coming very soon. So we'll talk on that next time. For now, I want to say goodbye to our listeners and thank you so much, Benita, for everything. You've been fantastic, and we'll link it down below, the tariff evaluation. That's what you call it, right? A framework, tariff framework, right? and let's see what people think and reach out to us. And yeah, so thank you so much. And you listeners, have a wonderful week. We'll see you back next Monday. So thank you, Benita.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us. Simply Trade is brought to you by the generous contributions of Global Training Center. You can follow the show and GTC on LinkedIn or Twitter and other social networks. Make sure you check out the show notes in the description for a full rundown of today's show with all the important links. Also, make sure that you share this with a friend and subscribe on your favorite streaming platform. We really like hearing from you. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to rate and review wherever you listen to this podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show or would like to sponsor Simply Trade or suggest any topic you would like for us to discuss, please contact us via email at simplytrade@globaltrainingcenter.com, or you can DM us on Twitter at simplytradepod. Thank you again for the privilege of your time. Happy trading. Simply Trade is not a law firm or an advisor. The topics and discussions conducted by Simply Trade hosts and guests should not be considered and is not intended to substitute legal advice. You should seek appropriate counsel for your own situations. These conversations and information are directed towards listeners in the United States for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only and should not be substituted for legal advice. No listener or viewer of this podcast should act or refrain from acting on the basis of information on this podcast without first seeking legal advice from counsel. Information on this podcast may not be up to date depending on the time of publishing and the time of viewership. The content of this posting is provided as is. No representations are made that the content is error-free. The views expressed in or through this podcast are those of the individual speakers, not those of their respective employers or Global Training Center as a whole. All liability with respect to actions taken or not taken based on the contents of this podcast are hereby expressly disclaimed.